So the topic we're going to cover today is how do we solve equations that have like terms and parentheses. Okay, so if you look at the goal, what we're going to do is solve equations using the distributive property and to combine like terms. Now, what is the clue that the distributive property exists? Well, it's pretty straightforward. If you see parentheses, then that is a clue that the distributive property exists. So, building on our solving equations, what we're going to do first is we're going to use the distributive property to remove parentheses. Then we are going to combine like terms that are located on the same side of the equal sign, which is part of the reason why some teachers will show you to draw that, or tell you to draw that line down, because that will tell you how to separate. Now, just a couple of things about combining like terms. Like terms have the same variable or variables, which is why I'm adding the S, and the variables have the same exponent. Now, luckily, for what we're going to be doing in this unit, we're only going to be dealing with one variable and no exponents. So we're not going to get into some of the more sophisticated or complicated like term situations. Now, to combine like terms, you add the coefficients. What are the coefficients? The number in front of the variable. And carry over the variable. So, for example, hopefully you'll see that 2x and 3x are like terms because they both have just an x. I add the 2 and the 3 to get 5 and carry over the x. 2x means x plus x. 3x means x plus x plus x. And then hopefully you'll see that that's 5x's in total. Once we've done these two steps, we are now down to a two-step equation. So we undo addition or subtraction, whichever one of those two exists. And then finally, we undo multiplication or division. I'm not going to restate the concept of checking the work. Okay, that's going to be implicit from here on in. So now let's walk through some examples. We have 8 examples we're going to go through in class. What's important is to do some of the steps I'm going to talk about to avoid making some very common mistakes. So hopefully you realize that in question number 1, you're distributing the 6 because it's immediately outside the parentheses. There's no operational symbol between it, which means it's going to be multiplication. And I tell students to use these arcs because it's going to tell me that I'm going to distribute the 6 to both the 2 and the x. Now we're down to a two-step equation. I have negative 36. The way to look at it, these are the same sign, negative 24, negative 12. So they're put together and carrying over the negative sign. I divide by negative 6. So x is 6. Okay? In the second one, I'm distributing a negative 2. Most common mistakes students are going to make are with the signs. So I get negative 14x plus 8x equals 10. Okay? I'm sorry, not negative 14x, but negative 14. Hopefully somebody was jumping up and down saying there's a mistake. I add 14, the inverse of that. 8x equals 24, so that I get and that should be an 8, x equals 3. Okay. Continuing on, we're going to be building throughout these problems. I am distributing a negative 4, so I get 6x minus 4x plus 4 equals 14. Now you're going to see that we have our like terms on the same side. What are our like terms? 6x and negative 4x. I've always recommended trying to identify the two of them so as to avoid mistakes, and always pick up the sign to the left. I'm going to subtract 4. 2x equals 10, and so x is 5. Continuing on. Now, this one is a little tricky because what is immediately outside the parentheses is a negative sign. If there is no number there, there's an imaginary 1. So really what I'm distributing is a negative 1. Here are my like terms. 3x plus 3 equals 30. Subtract the 3. 3x equals 27. So x is 9. Okay. Going to the next 4. I am distributing a negative 7. Again, common mistake. Don't forget to bring down the 23. You're distributing a negative 7. It becomes negative 21. Now I have two sets of like terms that I want to combine. 23 and negative 21, negative 7x, and positive 5x. Okay? So I put the two of them together. I get 2 minus 2x equals 10. Subtract 2. Negative 2x equals 8. I divide by negative 2. X equals negative 4. Okay. I'm going to distribute negative 8. Negative 14 equals 6x minus 8x minus 24. Here are my like terms. Negative 14 equals negative 2x minus 24. I add the 24 to each side. 10 equals negative 2x. So x is negative 5. Okay. Going to the last two. Let's make this a little bigger. I am distributing a 1/2. That gives me 1/2 a. 1/2 times 6 is a 3, is equal to negative 12. Down to 2 steps. Subtract 3. They're the same sign, so they're going to get bigger in terms of the absolute number. How do I get rid of a half? Multiply by its reciprocal. A is equal to negative 30. And then finally, I'm distributing 2/3. 2/3 times 3 is 2. 2/3 times negative 9 is a negative 6. Don't write plus minus. It'll confuse you as to what to do. Add 6. 2y equals negative 2. So y is equal to negative 1. So to summarize, today we added on the use of the distributive property and combining like terms as the first steps to be done when solving equations.